said at the start of this, we went through line by line, and we had a pretty vigorous debate. I mean, a matter of 2 or 3 words in some cases, when we would play devil's advocate with one another, and back and forth to make sure we got that stuff right. So I'm not personally going to sit here and go hypothetically the policy that I think this district should revise. I think this district runs pretty smoothly and doing a pretty bang-up job of it on this stuff.
And through the year, though, there is things that pop up, and then we'll put, like, I know Dr. McDonald, I think, referred to the sticky in there, hey, next year for the handbook. Unless it's like something very, like, pressing that it needs to be addressed now. There may be a law, the state may pass a law, like, anyway, through the year, and if the state passes a law, and it may not be written like that in the handbook, we still have to follow that law that's passed.
And we have to keep up with trends in technology, and, you know, 10 years ago, we might not have needed rules in there about phones that have cameras on them. You know, now we do need those rules. So,
And that's what I was trying to, because you guys are like there, you guys might be able to initiate some possible changes if you see something that's coming up, like you just said.
We submit the changes. Here's an example of what I did with Mrs. Howland. We have the handbook, half of this is in red, half of this is in black. What's in red, here's an example of 1 page. The stuff that's in the black at the top, we were like, okay, this is good. Everything else on this page is red. We were like, maybe we reworded this. Some of it's just rewording into some more plain spoken language. Others is just retweaking some processing, things of that nature. So, you know, we keep a running tabulation of that throughout the year. And then over the summer, we
reviewed over many other districts around the state's handbooks, looking at their handbooks, high school handbooks, seeing what's out there, what's.
And the county judge could even make recommendations to us attendance-wise. So, even though our school says, okay, after, just for example, 3 illegal absences to, you know, file it, they may say, well, we're not going to hear it until they're 6. Or,
right.
So, and that's something we
Well,
just have to do.
here's a perfect example. When I have to go to truancy court, one of the things in my discussions with Magistrate Schrontz is, you know, what do we do with the first-time truancy offender? Do we automatically do a citation, which that can be, the citation is there, but we automatically do a fine, which those can be pretty hefty. There's also things in there where kids can lose driver's licenses, learner's permits, various consequences. Judge Schrontz and I were on the same page as, okay, if we have a first-time offender, let's see what we can do to address the academic concerns. So he and I got together, we made something called an academic intervention plan, where I look at kids and we address, okay, their grades are low in X, Y, and Z. They're going to do the following things. The judge would grant either a 30-day or 60-day continuance for the student to adhere to that plan, show some progress, and then the trade-off was we would have our second hearing. I would say, Your Honor, I support dismissal of charges. The student has done a great job getting his or her act in line. We haven't had any more infractions, and it's been great. Now, is there language in the policy manual for the district about an academic intervention plan? No. Was that something that was created, you know, with various stakeholders to help our kids, you know, succeed and get themselves out of a truancy hole? Yes. Has it been 100% effective? No. Has it been a good 80-90? Yeah. We've helped some kids out with that.
Well,
So,
and that follows the state level of what the MTSS model is, the multi-tier system of supports. I mean, ultimately, you know, elementary level, they're doing more academic behavioral interventions as they're getting to high school. Academic interventions are happening for some of those that need it, but then mostly it's attendance, it's discipline, it's those type of things. And how can we make them be successful? Students are going to make mistakes. With those mistakes, we want them to grow and be successful. That's the bottom line. But they also need to understand that there are rules, as we discussed earlier in middle school. They need to follow those rules. If they break a rule, there's a consequence. That's life. Yes?
One other thing, and Mr. Hauser and I, we worked on something like that last year, and it was great. You know, and I understand that was creating, you know, academic, you know, just, my son got in trouble, he had academics that were low. Mr. Hauser and I created a system with, you know, keeping him for the whole school day, and his grades got better. You know, so I could agree that that does happen, and it's a positive thing. Mr. Cleaver, you had mentioned something about whatever, like the laws could be fluid, and different laws that are brought down from the government or state. So I know that one of the policies now, it states about, the one line is like, I believe it is, within the limits of the law. Now, as a parent, I may not be privy to what the limits of the law are. Is that something like if I were to call you, Mr. Cleaver, and say, could you clear up like what the limits you're speaking of?
It would be a case-to-case situation, like depending on the situation.
Would it be after the fact, or could it be prior to, just so
Well,
that
depending on
someone
the
knows?
severity of the infraction, it could be after the fact, it could be, because it could be expulsion, and that way you'll have the whole explanation of what it is and why it's being referred for expulsion, and the case law, and you'll have that whole process. But there is,
I mean, you wouldn't want to take like hypotheticals and say, okay, if this kid does this, this is what we're gonna do.
So I'm just going to assume right now you're referring to student search.
No, I'm not.
I'm just in the line, so
Yeah,
that's where I'm going.
I'm not dredging anything,
Alright.
trust me, I'm trying to be very positive and.
But,
Yeah, I-
you know,
but it-
I
that's
think it again, it depends on the situation, the severity of it. And the law does allow us, the local parent, the whole,
Yeah.
type process as part of that. But again, I think that the big picture is, number one, to keep the students, staff, and everyone safe. And
Absolutely.
number two, to do what we feel is the good faith for the best, what's best for the child at that time. And, a lot of times, there's situations, and I'm just talking for me personally, where, we find something, because we never, reality is we don't want to find anything. I mean, because we don't want more, we have enough stuff to do, it's just, we're not looking for more work, as much as people think sometimes we are, we're really not. The issue is that just, catching a student or whatever it may be, the hope is that the ultimate is not the punishment, whether it's positive or negative, it's the lesson that's learned. And then moving forward, the kids go and make good choices, in life. Because I got a 16-year-old at home, and he makes some of the dumbest choices I can ever think of. And I always blame his mom, when he makes the bad ones, and I take credit when he makes the good ones. But again, there's a lesson in everything. And I think that's really ultimately what we try to do on a day-to-day basis is number one job is the health and welfare, safety of our students and staff and everyone else. But again, just to make productive citizens of every kid, whether it's a kindergartner, whether it's a middle school, whether it's a high school. And is everything in black and white with the law? Absolutely. Absolutely not. I interpret it one way. There's many times where we interpret it two different ways, and I argue till I'm blue in the face because I don't agree with him or other Attorney Schwab, or I don't agree with other people. But it's where we're at, with it. But to say, if you called me and asked me a question about a situation and knowing the whole time, probably have to go research it myself, to be truthful.
Mr. Kemmer, again, the case law with student searches,
I wasn't good at that, but.
I'm not a bright line rule, but I can tell you that this is reasonable, this is not. The standard that the courts have worked out is reasonable, and the search has to be reasonable under the circumstances. So, depending on what you're looking for.
Yeah, I wasn't bringing it up, I just.
But again, and there's times where there's
Speed the line,
situations
speed the
that,
line, Brett.
there's situations that come up, and
Page
again,
27.
just the conversation of calling the parent and saying, this is what we heard, this is what we found, is enough for that parent or grandparent or someone to say, you know what, if this is the case, little Johnny, and you're out there, screwing around, there's gonna be consequences at home too. And ultimately, you hope, it ends up, moving forward. And the unfortunate part of the school discipline is enough for the student to learn the lifelong lessons that we hope they do.
Can I add something to this extent of law to that? I mean, we search, and if there is a weapon or there's drugs, that's out of our hands. That's turned over to the law. They take over from there.
So I'm sorry, I know you had your hand. Go ahead. So, just to backtrack to the student right thing, okay, so, just to piggyback on that, that potential being put in, okay, let's say, as a faculty member or administration, the student decides, hey, listen, I'm not gonna be involved with what your literal investigation is. I would rather have a police officer come in and do it through a law perspective. Is that something that would be?
Well, there would be a situation or a consequence, I'll say, from the school side, but
If they refuse?
Well,
No, I'm saying, okay, let's say the
So
student.
you're saying if I ask to search a book bag and the student says no,
No, I'm not even talking.
give the hypothetical.
So hypothetically, I know the council said that the students still have rights, and we've established that, okay? My question is, if someone in the school wants to, as Sue said, search, okay, and the student says, you know what, I would rather have you call the police. Is that acceptable as long as you have them
Yeah,
detained, not
I'm
detained,
gonna
but?
say it's gonna depend on the situation.
Yeah, if it's a weapon or
the
anything.
reports have a weapon
right,
and there's a
obviously,
bulge in
right,
it,
right,
I'm gonna,
Right.
check that out.
Depending on the severity, like you said, right.
Now, the other
right.
part of it is too, the situation is, as soon as you refuse or don't allow us to do our part of it,
You call them cops.
and then they have what they need on their end to move forward with it, whether it be a vehicle,
And-
whether it be,
Yeah.
anything.
And that's, I 100% understand that, but for a student right aspect of it, and, everybody has rights, for a student right aspect of it, the student has to know what their specific rights are, whether or not they can say, you know what, I'm just gonna deal with the law, is what I'm
Mr.
saying.
Hammer, just a couple things, if I could. One, if the administration has the reasonable suspicion to search, they can search regardless of whether or not the student consents. Okay. If you want to get the police, if they want to get the police involved, that could be up to the board to decide if they want to allow them to operate under that process. But like Mr. Tex said, if weapons are involved, search them now.
Yeah,
It's better safe than sorry.
right.
And then there's also insubordination that could play into it.
And another thing you want to consider though.
So they don't have, when you're saying in support, like I have employees, if I say, hey, go trim that tree, and they say, I'm not gonna trim the tree, then it's insubordination. But if you're saying something that would be against their rights, is that insubordinate? I can't tell my employee
This
to
is a fact.
go rob that bank, and if he doesn't listen to me,
Right.
Again, I just want to make it clear.
It's a great-
If the
it's gotta be-
administration has the reasonable suspicion to